It's great to see so many faces on this evening. We will be running through a similar format to our normal Monday Natters evenings. Monday Natters is a new series. I know lots of you have been connecting so far, but if you haven't already, they're regular Monday nights where we take a different topic each week, and we have some people share some best practice, some ideas, some of their experience, and then we open up into a discussion for the later part of the evening. Tonight is all around the big weekend, and also the plans for 2021 have had to change, and we have a new few ideas around the big reopening as well to explain to you. So let's see if we can share better now. Nope. Perhaps if you can use the chat box, you might like to pop into the chat box who you are and your club, just to let everybody else know who we've got on the call this evening, and I will try and sort out this technical issue.
We can't put it in the chat box, but Ben and Nikki from Eagle Bowman.
Hi Ben, hi Nikki, good to have you with us, thank you. Right, thank you everybody for bearing with us and for popping in where you're from, and please continue to do that if you'd like to. If you haven't done that so far, we will now be able to get going. Okay. So tonight, as I've said, feel free to use the chat box, but for most of the evening, would ask you to stay on mute just to reduce the amount of background noise. If you do come on microphone, then if you want to pop your camera on, that's lovely. But cameras are optional. It's always nice to see a face to the name, and but it's up to you. But if you want to, when you have opportunity to contribute to the discussion later, that would be nice. So we're going to talk through our different hopes for this year around the big reopening and what that means. We're going to run through tips on planning a big weekend. We've got some speakers lined up to share about their experiences about the big weekend, their top tips. But if you've received the email about tonight from me, you may have also seen in there that there's an opportunity for you to think about what would your 3 top tips be that you've learnt about running open days aimed at the general public. You might have some top tips to contribute, and we'll finish with those thoughts and questions in an open discussion. So on the call tonight, we're grateful for contributions from Keith Ritson, Nick Kershaw, Duffy Dorr, Nick Lee, and maybe you. And Gail Pink is on the phone on the call with me this evening. Gail, just to start off, perhaps you could pop onto microphone, just say hi, and do you want to tell us about the first time you tried archery?
Yeah, hi everyone. Nice to see you. Yeah, I've worked for Archery GB for just over 2 years, and I went to my first big weekend, and that was probably one of the first times that I tried archery. Yeah, it's brilliant. I'm a squash player. That's my sport.
Great, thank you, Gail. Okay, so just to begin with, it seems like a long time ago now, but the last time we were able to run a big weekend was actually 2019, and that was a really successful year. We're really grateful to all of you who put lots of effort in that year. The events were really successful, as shown in the Archery UK magazine afterwards. Some of the pictures there that give you a flavour. So we had to cancel the big weekend last year, sadly, as that was due to happen in May, and everything in May obviously was cancelled. So this year, as we approached the big weekend and we knew we were approaching 2021, we issued a save the date email and information, and the plan was to run a big reopening weekend to try and get some activities going in the big week in between, and to end with the big weekend on the second weekend in May. But that was before the second strain of the virus was confirmed and started to take effect. So now we're in February 2021, and we want to confirm a different approach for 2021 because we are in a different position to where we'd hoped we'd be. We know our sport is dependent on healthy clubs and all of you volunteers, and that's going to be the main focus initially, to get clubs reopen and active again. We know the data on coronavirus is looking positive at the moment, but there's very tentative steps, and we're still waiting for Boris's big announcement next Monday. We need to reopen our clubs first. We need to build the confidence back up, and we know you need time to do that, and we need especially more time when we're thinking about events aimed at the general public. So the plan is to push the big week and the big weekend back to July, to still run the big reopening in May, but the focus on that weekend would be very much on whatever your club feels able to do. We're going to give you some suggestions, but it's up to your club to choose to opt in to however many of them you wish to do, so that you can run that effectively. You might choose to do things that will be mainly online, or you might choose to do things that are all the way up to full shooting with the current restrictions at that time. We don't yet know what they will be, so this is going to have to be fluid. But what we will do from next week onwards is we're going to open up registration for the big reopening. And our hope is that all clubs will be able to take part in some way. As I say, it's up to you how much you get involved. So we'll put forward some suggestions for you, and you might choose one or two of them or all of them. It's up to you. Firstly, we're going to make available a quiz, an online quiz. We're going to suggest that that could be something you might use on the Friday night, but it's up to you again when you want to use that. You might choose to really rally round and get as many people engaged in that as possible from the community, all your contacts, families of members, wherever you have contacts, you could include them. You could use it as an opportunity to raise some funds for a local charity, perhaps one that struggled through the lockdown. You might choose to organise yourself a work party day, or a morning or an afternoon. It might be time to spruce up the clubhouse or the range, or check over your beginner's equipment, whatever needs doing. We know again there may be social distancing measures in place, but that should be possible by then, we hope. You might choose to run a social. It could be a picnic, for example. We're going to issue some support and some guidance on how you might run a social distance picnic. Obviously, we'll need to check in with the regulations at that time, but again, should be possible in bubbles, or maybe groups of up to 6 if that's the regulations at that time, if that's outside. Or it could be a shooting session. Hopefully by then it will be, but as I say, we're waiting to hear. You might choose to run that on a Saturday or the Sunday, or even both. It's totally up to you how your clubs engage with the big reopening. But what we'd like to do is encourage every club to do at least one or two of those things, and maybe more. And then our thoughts turn to the big weekend for July and the big week. So where do we start from? Well, we start from the last big weekend event in 2019, which was actually the 8th time we've run a big weekend together. And it was the biggest, most successful big weekend yet. We had 94 clubs or organisations planned and took part, and they registered over 103 different events. Events were spread throughout the country, as you can see on the, it's very small, but on the maps in the corner, events were run in Scotland, across England, in Wales and in Jersey. 37 of those events were run by on-target clubs, with 2 non-Archery GB organisations. We asked for feedback from everyone that took part. We don't get 100% feedback from those that take part, but when we extrapolated those that took part and applied that across all of the events, there's an estimated nearly 6,000 people that came and participated at a big weekend event. We really need your help in terms of data to improve how accurate our understanding of the big weekend is. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. And 804 people signed up to a beginner's course as a result of the big weekend. So if you were involved, well done. And it was a really successful year. And thank you for everyone that took part. So I just mentioned there, it's key now it will be our 9th big weekend, hopefully this year, to be able to evidence the success of the big weekend. And we need your help to do that. So we're going to ask that every participant is registered. We may well have to do that still, because check and trace in place at the moment requires it. And by May, we may still need to require it. But actually, that will help us, because we really need to know how many people are taking part and the spread and the different demographics we've got taking part to prove how well the big weekend is running. So we're going to ask all clubs to feedback on their experience, but also that crucial data of all the participants. And more detail on how we will want the participants registered will be coming out to you closer to the time. Here's some of the data from 2019. As you can see, there's a really good mix of male and female, juniors and adults that take part in the big weekend. Most people tend to find their social media is their most successful way of promoting their event. And we're going to be running a webinar specifically about that on the 17th of March. So that's a date for your diaries. And it's listed already as a webinar that you can book into. And it's called Spring Cleaning Your Website. It's not just going to cover websites, it's going to cover social media as well. But do feel free to book into that one. Or maybe invite someone else that oversees your club website to book into that webinar. That's going to be run by our comms team from within Archery GB, and it's highly recommended. And as we can see there, some more information about typically when the clubs fed back how many people signed up to a beginner's course. Most people found that between 0 and 5 people had signed up. But also another big chunk of clubs reported that they had 6 to 10 people sign up to a beginner's course, and then obviously it tails off in the larger numbers. We've been looking recently a lot at what is a typical member's journey through into the sport, and I just wanted to show this slide again as we think about big weekends. All of those approaches we've been talking about recently, about having the right image, even when you make those first impressions as a club, being able to get information out to new members, making sure the welcome is right, making sure the support is right and understanding their needs. The big weekend obviously falls into that really nicely. So it's just a nod to remembering the member's journey. Thinking about how will you communicate with that member and their family, Doesn't have to be a junior. We've got a junior on the slide here, but it could be a new member of any age that comes along to your big weekend. What do they need to know before they come that might put them at ease? And what might they need to know after they come? So when we're thinking about big weekends, just really quickly, things to think about are, how do you build a team? It might not be that you need your top archers in your team. They could contribute, but you could build a team of anyone that wants to get involved. The main thing is, have they got some really good ideas, or can they help achieve those ideas? What networks and partnerships have you got? Could you run a joint big weekend with the local scout group, or the local school, or another organisation, or the club down the road? If you haven't got enough volunteers to run one each, you could combine forces. What about your promotion and communication? And there's that webinar mentioned there again on the 17th of March. You need to communicate within your club to your club members. What is the plan? How might they help with that? And then how do you start to promote it outside of your club as well? What is your audience going to be? Who are you going to aim your big weekend at? And that will help determine your event location and timing. Where is it best to run your event? It might be your club range, but it might not be. You might choose to move it somewhere else if there's more footfall there, or you find that people might be more comfortable attending, or there's better parking, or people know about the venue better. Whatever reason that you have, you could choose to move your big weekend somewhere else. It could be at a local open day with other sports, or it could be at a carnival or somewhere else. When is best for the people you want to attend? Is there access for disabled people? Are there toilets? Are there parking? Basically got to think like a new beginner. And then you want to sit down and plan your format. So how will you actually run your event? Who will help you come up with those ideas and help you plan it? And there's some ideas listed on screen, and those pictures are taken from the guide that we have available each year on helping you run a really successful open day. And make sure you've read through the guides, and we will be making resources available again this year. How can you share out the tasks so they don't fall on one or two people? Even if there's only a small team of you, to share the tasks is really healthy. It might be that you could include someone that doesn't normally volunteer in your club, and they may have more time. How can you create a buzz about being involved? Could you run a competition within your club about who's able to prepare or attract the most volunteers in, beginners in on the day? Some healthy competition might spur people on. What layout would be best? You might have your range set up in a certain direction on a normal club day, but does that work for a big weekend? Does it need moving over? Does it need changing direction at all? Are you even going to run a normal club day on that day, or are you just focusing on your beginners? What's the best layout? How will you register people? How will you welcome them in? Is there going to be a set area to welcome people? That registration, as I say, will be key this year, as we will need everybody registered. So how will you funnel people into a registration point before they even get started? How many helpers do you need? How long might you need them for? Do you need a rota system? Will they get a break? Is it clear what expectations are on your volunteers? What equipment will you need? Do you have all that you need? And if not, do you need a budget? And who will manage that? What are the key dates that you need to hit on your timeline to get ready for your big weekend event? And then it's down to spreading the word. So and the webinars mentioned on screen there about sprucing up your websites and social media, but how can you get as many people in your club as possible involved in promoting your big weekend, talking about the day, perhaps inviting their work colleagues or their contacts? Ask for their help in promoting your event. They may have some really good ideas and networks that you could tap into. Maybe you could issue a challenge to a local sports club. Is there a rugby club down the road that you could say, how many of you can come and hit the gold every time, or is there some way you can say, we'll come to your open day if you'd like to come to ours? Who can you invite along? Local schools, councillors, uniformed organisations, guides, the scouts, community groups, or your local MP, the mayor, the media, the police, and maybe if you have houses around your range, what about all the neighbours? Are they getting an invite as well? Can you get your event featured in your local paper? Or also there's the good old posters and emails. Where might you put posters up? And who is there to email locally? When it comes to on the day, setting up and packing down might be large tasks, so they could be done in 2 separate groups, or it could be a separate group that come and set up and then come back at the end of the day and pack down. If you think that your volunteers on the day might appreciate that, some extra helpers. Who will oversee your parking? And what about signage? If you've never been to your range before, would someone know where they're coming and where to park? Is there someone that could be on car park duty with a friendly face? Then where do they go when they get out of their car? How do they walk safely towards your event? How do they register? How do they get their equipment? And the main thing about your volunteers on the day is to really be a friendly welcome. It might be that you've got some volunteers that aren't actually archers, and that would be fine as well if they're providing that friendly welcome. Registration and conversations with people is really key to help them feel at home. It's good to get them funneled in and then shoot quickly, but who picks up a conversation with that person afterwards to see what do they think? Do they want to take their archery further? What do they need? Is there something they want to find out about the club? Make sure that you can recruit as diverse a team as possible. So it could be that you've got some recent beginners on your team that know exactly what it's like to be new to the club because they did it recently. It could be that you have some juniors on there that might just naturally become role models for any other juniors that come along and have a try. Have you got a good balance of male and female people that are volunteering? Have you got coaches that are good with all ages and all abilities? And that key emphasis there on seeing is believing. If they can see someone like themselves or see someone that they relate to, then people might feel more welcomed to stay at your club. How can you help your visitors feel at ease? What would be helpful for them to know? And what do the volunteers wear so that they can be identified as people that can be asked questions? Is there some way in which you can identify your volunteers? They might need some places to sit. Again, we will have to refer to the guidelines at that time, but as in the picture on this screen, you might need a place for a family to crash out or to sit with their dogs. You might need some sunshade or some cover from the rain. Where might people sit if they can't stand for long periods of time or if they're elderly? Can you offer some refreshments? Or what else could people do at your big weekend other than archery to help keep them there longer and get the conversation flowing? And when is the next beginners course available so that people know how they can follow on their archery skills they've learnt that day? Or maybe it's a taster day if your club's not able to run a full beginners course. Who's going to invite them to that, and when will they get that invite? So your volunteers are really clear of the expectations on them. And as we've said earlier on, recording details of everyone that come along to your big weekend is going to be crucial. So we need you to think about recording for everybody that attends, and visitors can opt out of future contact if they wish, but important that we record on the day who was there. But lots will want to find out more, and that gives you an opportunity as a club to follow that up, but also for us to follow that up with them. Details on this will come out as we get closer to July. So just before we go into some thoughts from other people, just to share that idea again of how do we make sure that we're really catering to the needs of people that come along to our club. The big weekend, the focus is on the general public of that day. So just an encouragement, if you are running a club session at your big weekend as well, alongside each other perhaps. That's really good in terms of archers being, new members being able to see what the archers in your club can achieve, and perhaps being inspired by the equipment that you're using. Your archers are shooting longer distances, and they can really get a feel for what to expect if they were to join the club. But make sure that there are enough people focused on the welcome and providing for the needs and support for those new members, that potential new members that come along to the big weekend just for the have a go. So there's a whole team of people pictured on screen that it was lovely to get to know at Bitton Archers, and just a nod there to making sure that everybody that was involved in running your event is thanked afterwards. It could be that they don't actually help on the day, but they've helped do lots of promotional work, or they've helped with the follow-up. But just a nod there to, it takes a whole club to run a really successful open day, I think. So just to encourage you to run a big thank you. Could be that you run a special club social for all the helpers that come along, or they will get a mention somewhere and a thank you. So I think that Keith is on the phone, on the call this evening. So I'd just invite Keith to perhaps come onto the microphone and share with us some of the feedback from the big weekends that have been run up at Bowman of Backwith. Can you hear us okay, Keith?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can, yes. Thanks very much. Over to you.
Right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome, I suppose. We are actually the Bowman of Backwith, which it says on the screen. We're a recreational archery club, but we turn nobody away, totally non-discriminatory. Okay, the big weekend. Why do we do it? To introduce our sport to the general public and to collect new members. We all know that there's a fall off every year in all sports, not just ours, and that has to be replaced, and then the trick is to try to keep them. What do we do with the event? Well, for a start, our event is free. We will accept donations, but we're free. And apart from the big weekend, we run a minimum of 6 have-a-goes throughout the year, first Saturdays of the month, April to September. And your events must be fun. You're not there teaching archery. You're there providing a safe introduction. We don't want a 12-year-old in a discussion about Archer's paradox. Everything's done in accordance with safety and the rules of shooting, and obviously COVID now. Now, we split our field in the normal direction, down the middle, with the appropriate space. We have 4 targets, and as our guests come in, they have to walk past our archers, behind the line, of course, who shoot their various bows, and we'll discuss things with them to get across to the have-a-go, so they can't sort of just stop and then not go and see everything else. The other thing we insist on, despite comments from our county, is that we ask that all juniors, that is under 14 years of age, are accompanied by an adult. This means that we don't have to look after the back of the field. The parents, guardians, what have you, keep order for us, and we don't need as many people. What else do we do? Publicity. Oh yes, publicity, publicity, publicity. That's the thing. We do our own posters. Oh, well done, Helen. Thank you very much. Yeah, we have the poster. That's this year's. It was great with the 2 targets on for 2020, which we put up, and anywhere they can go, where people go. So you've got doctors, surgeries, dentists, hairdressers, schools, chip shops. There's lots of people go to chip shops and takeaways, so they go to there. The one on the right is an A6, i.e. an A4 cut into 4 pieces, and we use the paper ones of those for just leaving lying around in bundles where people again accumulate. And then we print cardboard ones which are easier to go through letterboxes, and our guys do their own streets and what have you. The one on the left is a card that a few of us carry, and all our contact details are on the back. And if anybody sort of says anything about archery, then we give them one of those. And the trick is when I'm on the beach with a dog, and it's a nice day or something, I will, in passing, just mention, oh, we're going to the archery, and it's amazing how many people say, oh, what about, and they get a card. But local papers, television, etc., etc. We have some very good relations with our local papers. One thing about the poster is, if I hold this up, you may well, we've got punched and a treasury tag in the top. It makes it easier to put up, and it just looks that little bit more professional, which is what we're trying to do. Yeah, right, okay, there's something just come up there. Yes and no. We are a section of Backworth Miners Welfare, which is quite strange because we're insured twice, once by them and once when we pay our fees to Archery GB. So the field is ours. We have 24/7 access, and at the moment, subject to COVID, once it comes over and what have you, we've lent the field to Alec Wise, who's part of the Olympic team, free of charge. He's got his own target, his own bits, his own cleaning gear and everything, and he can go up there and practice as and when, once he's allowed. Equipment, as we said, there are 4 targets. We put out about 20 bows, so that we don't have to go back and forward when somebody can't do this, can't do that. Have a large quantity of arrows, and we use an inch mesh sort of to put them in their sets. So we just keep pulling the sets out that we want. And just about any arrow will do. Don't worry too much about the spine. Providing the bow will drive it, it's okay. It's only 10 yards, and you're really looking for speed with the amount of people that we put through. Right, the event itself, when the public arrive, we have 1 or 2 of our senior archers greeting them. They don't take details at that point, but they make sure they know what's going on and where to come. When they get to us, we haven't recorded everybody that comes, which we're obviously going to have to do, but we have a printed form which anybody who's interested in proceeding further with archery, they give us their name, email, and a telephone number for when I get the email wrong. For refreshments, we have soft drinks and chucky bars and things available. When they get to us, we have a couple of senior archers checking eye dominance and issuing the arm guards, so we know what we're doing that way. And then they pass them down the line to senior archers who run that. At the back of the field, we have the arrow sets, i.e. the ones with the metal targets and the rubber stickers, and our juniors run that with one senior archer just keeping an eye. But at the minute, with what we've got a backlog of over 50 people who've left their details saying that they're interested in archery with the thing from last year. And we've now changed the format of our beginner's course to 2 consecutive complete Saturdays. We just got fed up of going on and on and on when people dropped out. And the obvious thing is, as Helen said, get your club members involved. And the main thing is, enjoy it. Thanks, Helen.
Thanks, Keith. That's brilliant. And if you are ready to run anything for the public by May, there'll be nothing stopping you inviting some of those people on your waiting list along. If you can plan a big reopening event and invite some family and friends along, if the guidance allows it and your club feel comfortable with it, then you can go for that, obviously, as well, as part of your big reopening.
Yeah, that's not a problem, because as part of the welfare, we have a big grade 2 listed hall with all the facilities, restaurant, bar, etc. Again, subject to COVID, but we have a lot of facilities for what we are.
Sounds great. That's brilliant. Thank you very much. That's really good. And we also have Nick on the line this evening. Nick, can you hear us okay?
I can't know, I found a microphone mute, yeah.
Brilliant. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm Nick from Bowen Bowman. I'm the lead coach. I've been an archer for about 15 years, on and off, I think. I'm just going to run through some of the stuff that we use to communicate with people. And it's not just website and social media. We use quite a lot of local online groups. There's a guy who runs Abergele TV. He's an ex-BBC cameraman, I think. There's some quite professional people around there will help us for reward, really. Local radio stations, we use Bayside Radio. They were put together with a grant funded, so they have to demonstrate that they're proper community radio. So we get a lot of help from them, a lot of publicity. We'll advertise free weekends, beginners courses. We offer a free beginners course as a raffle prize. Yeah, we get quite a lot of support off them. So about 2 months before the last big weekend, we started advertising with these. And I think the key is getting the timing right to get the advertising stuck in people's minds. If you hit them about 2 months before the event, they go, oh, that's a good idea, we'll do that, but then they'll forget about it. So you need to hit them again 4 to 6 weeks later, and then again the week before. You've really got to push it a week before. So a local radio station, it has about, I think it's about 5,000 listeners on the Bayside Radio, which is not a lot, but it's community based, and that's the thing we're looking for. And then the next one was the thing is, it's free as well. You don't have to actually do very much cost layout. Abergele TV is quite professional. He does some really good little documentaries. And that again is free. He filmed us at Quirk Castle last year, year before, when we raised money for our club there. We filled up a beginner's course on one day, and it was all down to this guy filming us on, setting it up, and then publicising it, and everybody just made a beeline for our place. We had a queue miles long. Everybody's like, how do you do that? You don't get anybody else. That's what you've got to do, is get as many people. Richard runs this, a guy called Richard runs Conway Nub News. It's mainly for just Conway town, but I persuade him to put stuff on there for Conway. He has quite a good following. He will get you to write as much as possible. You don't want to get it wrong, so you have to write the story for him, and then he'll put it into a newspaper article. But it's all just literally an online newspaper. Again, it's free, and he does get right behind local events. Doing anything close to Conway, we'll use that. Conway Tourism, Conway Events team, and they advertise in a local area. They'll put little like iPads where you can go into Conway Tourist and type in local and stuff like that, and they'll put us on there. We'll get posters and banners printed by them, and they do a really professional job. And the dirt cheap posters and banners, the big banners. I think we paid £64 for a huge great banner, and the PA system higher as well. They have got volunteers that man that, so you don't have to do very much. And the other one is just hammer everybody who's going to get a picture in a paper. If you know any local celebrities that you can get to turn up at the event, people will turn up just to get their signature and watch them have a go at archery. And that way you can get more people joining them. We don't get a lot of councillors or MPs turn up for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe they just get too much stick and hassle. The local mayor's been and supported us at one event, and he really enjoyed it. It's a shame it was his last year, but it was quite good. We got quite a good publicity out of that. We got pictures in the paper and everything. So and that's about it. Just look in your local online newspapers, online radio stations. YouTube is massive. If you can get somebody, a youngster that's on YouTube, that you'll get thousands of people turning up. And that's about it, really. If you've got any questions for me,
That's brilliant. It's
let me know. You've just got to be aware of around you what is local and what you can do.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Nick. It's brilliant to see how much you invest in promotion in your local
we
area.
do a lot. We've filled up all 2019's beginner courses from that one weekend alone.
Yeah.
So we ran 4 beginners courses at 12 people in each, and we had a really good retention rate. And then COVID hit. And
That's really good. Thank you very much.
all right.
That's brilliant.
My pleasure.
Nick. And, next on the call, I'd just like to invite Duffy to come and join us on the microphone. Can you hear us okay, Duffy? Maybe not. Duffy, are you there? Hi there. Oh, I might be having some technical problems, but I was going to ask for some feedback about this event, because I think it's great at Hingham Bowman the way that they had chosen to run their big weekend event as part of a larger activities day. So there's some pictures here that show the day, and as you can see, the crowd is already there for you. So if you do have the opportunity to run something like that in your local area, then obviously that's a great opportunity. And they were running both archery there with the targets that you can see on the left and top right, but also the arrows kits. So the numbers of people that they were able to offer archery to on that day were in the hundreds, and it was just a rolling supply. Now this year that might be much more difficult, but as a general principle, if we can tap into larger events, then the crowd is there ready, waiting for you. Nick, I don't know whether you can hear us, and don't know whether you were ready to speak to us on this sort of basis, but I wondered if I could invite you onto microphone tonight as well, just to share with us a few points about your events in the past. Can you hear us okay, Nick?
Yeah, I can hear you, Helen, thank you.
Brilliant, over to you.
Okay, thank you. So I wasn't aware that we were preparing presentations, so I haven't got anything as good as Keith's or Nick's. but I was just responding to the 5 things that Helen wanted us to call out as key factors for running a successful day. So mine are, and I have to say, I think I've heard most of these either from Helen or from Nick or Keith. So my first is, don't rely on just the coaches. You can rope in some of the members and they can actually give a different perspective to the coaches as to how the club runs and the fun that they can have in fun shoots and competitions and the like. And it also takes the stress off of the coaches. Obviously, a member will work with a coach, but it does take some of the stress off of the coaches. Being very well organised, and I mean very well organised, makes it so much easier. Make sure everybody is briefed and understands exactly what their part is. I mean, I wrote out job descriptions for the person doing the registration, for the coaches, the party that's setting it up, all that sort of stuff. And now I can just churn that out each year. Something else that we did was have a crash area. So get one of the archers to run that, and we have the junior archery kit, you know, the plastic bows and the arrows with the suckers on the end. So you can have kids of, let's say, 2 to 8 who maybe can't take part in the actual day, but at least mummy and daddy can go and have a shoot while little Johnny is having a bit of fun with one of these junior archery kits. And that worked out really well. Ensuring everybody understands the rules around photography. Obviously, you know, you have to sign a declaration to say that you're happy to have your photograph taken. What we did was we had red and yellow labels. So if you were happy to have your photograph taken, you'd wear a blue label, and if you didn't want your photograph taken, you'd wear a red label. And then everybody who's carrying mobile phones, cameras, all that sort of stuff, they're all very much aware of what the rules are. I have to say, in the 3 events that I've run, I've never actually had to issue a red label, so that's kind of lucky. And the last point is, make it fun. People want to shoot, but they do want to have some fun. And if you can have some members on the field shooting as well, then those people that are attending your event can see what a sociable atmosphere your club can be. To answer Mandy's question, we share our club, or we lease time from our local cricket club. And the beauty of that, as far as the advertising is concerned, is obviously there's about 4 different teams that play for that cricket club, but they also lease time out to the kiddies football teams, a bridge club, a yoga club, Weight Watchers, and there's a couple of other clubs. So, you know, we've got an audience right on our doorstep there that we can advertise to. Thanks to Nick and Keith for their presentations. I learned a lot about the advertising. My one question I wanted to get out of this was how much more can I do to advertise our event? So what Nick and Keith have put forward is really, really useful. So thank you for that.
You can contact me about that if you want, Nick, anytime.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. Anybody needs anything, let me know.
Thank you.
Great.
I was interested in that event, Helen, that the previous speaker, Duffy, was going to do. How do we stand for range registration if you have to run the day on a different location?
Yeah, so a have a go event needs to be run in line with the code of practice for archery events, but doesn't require a range registration because it's such a small range that you're setting up. So obviously you will be required to risk assess. I imagine there'll still be a COVID risk assessment in place by the summer. Obviously more details on that will be confirmed closer to the time. But if you go elsewhere, they will require you, I would imagine, to do a risk assessment, certainly good practice too, and to run it in accordance with the code of practice. The moment that you move over to a taster session, then you would need to register the range if you're running it as a taster session. So have a goes, the targets will be on the floor. Taster sessions, targets can be at normal height and might be a longer session, more opportunity really to get into the shooting. But your have a goes is more of a kind of quick turnover, shorter distances and targets on the floor.
Brilliant. Thank you. I could have looked
There
at
is a printout sheet on Archery GB's website for that.
Yeah.
By Archery Code of Practice.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Nick. I really appreciate you putting that together, your thoughts together last minute. I know that we only talked about that recently on email, so thank you very much.
No problem.
And yeah, just maybe the next steps for you, for everyone on the call, is to think about booking that big reopening date into your club diary, and also the big weekend proposed date. We mentioned earlier the big week as well, just to explain that the week leading up to the big weekend will be an opportunity to try and involve schools, maybe some other archery providers, and to try and make sure that we really promote archery on a big scale across the whole country, leading up to a big weekend on the weekend. I've mentioned the Spring Cleaning Your Website webinar on the 17th of March, but just to put that date on the screen again, and all those things we mentioned earlier about what can you do now to try and build a team, even if it's a team of 3 or 4 people, to have some conversations about thinking about where might you run your event, what needs to be done between now and then, so that we're ready to go as soon as we've got the permission to start. Just a nod to the volunteer campaign that we're running at the moment. If your club are in the position where you need to recruit more volunteers, you could fill out the club survey from the volunteer pages on the website, if you've not already done so. That lets us know that you're looking for more volunteers, and we may be able to help out, match you up with people that have volunteered to start in helping out in clubs. So do fill out the club survey if you want more volunteers. So now we're going to turn over the evening to a general discussion. You might have come tonight with a few tips, or you might have come with a question, but just in the area generally of what do you think? What does it take to run a really successful big weekend? How can we make this year the biggest big weekend yet, given that really we're ready to relaunch the sport? So if anybody wants to hop onto microphone to address that issue, then please do. You're welcome to unmute and to come and give your answers.
I think there were a lot of good ideas came out from Nick and Keith for the advertising, as I said when I was doing mine. So yeah, I shall take a nod to that. That's really good.
All you need to do really is just do a local internet search for local TV, local radio separately, and online newspapers, and you'll find loads. Hopefully, anyway.
Yeah.
Also, I'm sorry, it's Mandy from Newcastle Archers here. Also, another useful organisation within all your local areas is your local active sports organisations. We have active Knots and active Newark, and they're all run the local council leisure clubs, and they will have a Newark Sports Association attached to them that all clubs can actually join and be part of, which will actually get you interlinked with all other clubs that are in your area, be it sailing, swimming, football, squash, you name it. And what we're doing in Newark, and an idea that's come to my mind on here, we were talking about all our sport clubs within our area doing a big day to promote all our sports and get people in, and archery being part of that. So it might be an idea as well for people to look for their local sports councils, which are run through your council leisure centres.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mandy. Yeah, great ideas.
And there's Disability Sports Day for Sin Sports Series. That gets us quite a lot of new members.
It's great. Thanks, Nick.
What was the other one? Haffle and Kaiser, like local mental health charities. we were the only club in Conway to provide a sport for them, and they were really grateful. So we got a lot of volunteers from them as well. And we're going back doing a sports day again for them when they can do it. Like that, it's name in the paper and all sorts.
Sounds good. Graham, you have your hand raised. Would you like to come on?
Yeah, this is actually, I didn't get too involved in the TPB day in 2019 as I was more involved in volunteering then as an archer. But what I did do was get involved in the I'm Team GB day, which I've made a mention of in the chat box. Now, it's very similar to the big weekend, but on a national scale with all sports. But what we did do is that I contacted the local Toyota agency, who brought down their own stand with their cars, and also involved with that was the disabled unit that came down with one of their mobility cars. Now, because we're a totally disabled friendly field, it was all advertised on TV and it was advertised on the radio. And by having them down there, it promotes their business. It also brings people in. And we had a raffle. But what I did do with the raffle is I went round to quite a lot of high-tech businesses. We got a lot of nice prizes. I went to, we had things like a weekend at the Hilton Hotel in Bournemouth as a prize, a trip across to the Isle of Wight by Red Funnel. Now, all these were given free. We had Lush provide a load of prizes as well. Now, it was a charity raffle that was for the kids. Radio Wave, who promoted us, have their own charity organisation, which is Cash for Kids. Now, as a result of that, we had over 150 people turn up, which enabled us to maintain the beginner sessions right the way through the year. And it does work. It's advertising all the time. If you don't advertise and you don't promote it through your local businesses, your media, Facebook, local villages, get the members to take out posters, stick them up everywhere, it ain't going to work. And that was my forte anyway, was media. So it just worked extremely well. And Nick said exactly the same thing over in Colwyn there. If you don't advertise, you don't get.
Yeah, promotion is really key. And just to encourage you again to think about signing up for that webinar on the 17th, where they're specifically going to look at promotion, not just about the big weekend, but as we look to reopen the sport, how do we make sure that we're using all those opportunities to a maximum to try and showcase our clubs. Lewis, nice to see you. Would you like to come on microphone?
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, there. Hi there. As a club who's never run a big weekend, or we haven't yet, staff question, but for those that have, how do you cope with, let's say, a mass influx where you've effectively got more people turning up than, well, you can physically cope with? I mean, it's a nice problem to have, but I'm sure it must have.
Just go, oh my God, right, let's get cracking.
What we found was that we had a nice little holding area where the guys could chat to our current archers, eat cake and drink fizzy pop. And we actually had a bit of a cake competition going on, which our main members made the cakes, and the people coming by had to vote on which cake they liked the best. So there were sorts of people getting involved with something other than the shooting, and then just try and keep people moving through as quickly as possible. We also had our members shooting further down the line, so if the queue got too big, we took a cohort to go and stand behind the main shooting line and talk through what was going through there, so it's a little bit like a show and tell as well.
Okay. And
you can use little archery games. We have one with a big draw target, and you just chuck beanbags at it. You've got a spray painted roundel on it, I mean, and the kids just, and anybody can beanbag at it while they're waiting.
Lots of beanbag or something like that at it. Yeah. I mean, when you actually have, when you're doing the actual have a goes though, how many arrows per person do you generally do?
3.
And how many times you?
It depends. If we got a little kid and they keep missing a target, we try to get them to hit the target. So between 3 and 6, really.
So do you do 2 loads of 3 per person, or is it literally just 3 per person and then the next person and then the next?
3 per person. Next one. You're quite welcome to join the back of the queue and go around again.
Right. Okay. Okay. Thanks. Yeah.
But especially on free archery sessions, it's good to do that.
Yeah. I mean, this is a problem.
And have somebody talking to, have like people around to talk to. We've got a little A board I made with all the benefits of archery on both sides. We put that in.
Yeah.
You can read that. They've got that to read. Beanbag archery. We have somebody teaching them drills and skills. We get a load of kids together and let them flick elastic bands. We'd get them doing the release drill, but with a little stretch. And they're allowed to fire them at a target as well. They get to practice while they're waiting in the queue.
Yeah, I mean, our problem as our club is that we can only shoot on a Sunday, which is frustrating. That we've only got one day that we can do this rather than having the whole weekend. If we want a second day, that's even if we'd be permitted, it's going to cost us certainly probably around 250 quid.
You don't want to be paying that out there, really.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's fine for a tournament, but for a have a go, it's, you know, when funds are already difficult because of COVID, it's the last thing you really need. So we're going to be restricted to just one day.
Yeah, you need to hammer that day, get local media involved, even invite your local reporters. If you know there's any newspaper reporters for a local newspaper, just invite them down for a brew.
Yeah, I know a few, so yeah.
Coffee, shoot some arrows. Normally they'll send a photographer down. You can get your free pictures if nothing else.
No, that's fantastic. Thanks ever so much for that. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, some really good points there made about, you know, it is about an open day kind of atmosphere, and how do you keep people there that, you know, they might be shooting for 10% of the time that they actually visit your event. What are they going to do for the rest of the time? Of course, it might be that you've got time to give them more time on the line, but if not, what might they do? Yes, some good points there. Good question. Thank you, Lewis. That's really good. Nicola, I know that you have a really good system at Norton Archers as well. I didn't know whether you want to tell us a little bit more about that. Hiya.
Hi, yeah, no problem. Yeah, we have it as like a big open day. We've actually tried to get the other sports on our complex involved as well to try and make it even bigger. So that's something that we're working on. But just when it's us, we have a registration desk, so they all filter in through a particular system, and there's all like photos up of different things from the club's history. We've put them on bosses for them to have a look at as they're coming in. And there's a cake stall, and we're really lucky that we get a lot of volunteers as well. So we've got different people manning different stations and stuff. We have the arrows kit. We have a little tuck shop and stuff like that, and then we ask some of our archers to shoot the Olympic distance as well. And we ask our blind archer to come and do a demonstration, so people can see different types of archery going on, and different bows as well. We just have a table where we've got a longbow, compound, recurve, and somebody will just introduce them to those sorts of bows, so they can say like, well, what's that bit there, and get enthusiastic answers from. And we put the volunteers on a rotation system as well. So they don't just get bored doing one thing all morning. So people come in and they wander around the entire event. And like I say, we have these little laminated cards, and they have numbers on for when they're due to shoot. And then we just call those numbers when it's their time, and then they come in and do the shooting bit of it. And then obviously they can go back and do anything that they want to do that they haven't managed to do yet. So it works really well.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much for chipping in there. That's fab. And Dave Bryn, you have your hand raised?
Yep.
Hi there, Dave.
Hi there. Hi from Curtin Archers.
a number of things. There's an open farm day that's run every year where local farms open up and they run big events. We have one that's a local farm shop, and we get absolutely buried at that. You know, we can, running at a pound a go for 6 arrows, we can take 300 quid at that event. And it's free to go. As you see, you've already got a ready audience. But we've picked up a lot of members, a lot of beginners courses from just going to those events. So keep an eye out for the open farm days. Somebody mentioned on a note that they have side shows. So we have birds of prey or little furry friends. Somebody comes along with a little stall. It just adds a bit of interest for other people. We have somebody dresses up in medieval kit with a longbow and spends the afternoon shooting down the field at a target 150 yards away, about a bit like a clout. And also we get involved with the local radio treasure hunt. So we are one of the clues on the treasure hunt for the radio show to come to us. And that brings in a lot of people as well. So that's just a few ideas that we have.
That's brilliant. Great. Thank you for chipping in those ideas. They're really good, yeah. And Ben or Nikki?
Hi, School Bowman. A couple of ideas, other than getting Aaron down to your big weekend, which is fabulous. We, as a side event to the big weekend, we put up a medieval crockery smash, effectively, with redhead arrows in a marquee, and bought a few cowbells off eBay. And at £1 an arrow, we made £700 on our day for 3 hours, just keeping people smashing stuff through. This year, we are looking at, when it goes ahead, we've just secured another venue, so we'll be doing it at 2 ends of our county. So to bring in local groups from everywhere, that we've got a wilderness area with no other clubs anywhere near it. So no one's been exposed to archery up there at all until we turned up. And now everyone knows about us.
Great stuff. Thanks, Ben. That's really fun. Yeah, I'm going to put my hand up to visit that event if I get to smash it up. That sounds great.
That's fine. Helen, you're down as number 1 on the list for turning up to smash things.
Sounds good. And Declan as well. I don't know whether Declan Ross Thomas, I don't know whether you might want to come on microphone. Just tell us a bit about the other ideas that you have tried. I'm dropping you in it there, but Declan, I don't know if you can hear us. I know that you've put some really helpful messages in the chat anyway, so maybe that you're not able to join us. So Helen, you have your hand raised. Would you like to come on microphone?
Hi, it wasn't ideas, because pretty much most of what we do every year you've sort of covered really, and we get quite a lot of success with it. But it was more thinking about, if you have lots of volunteers, utilising the skill set. And if you can know your coaches, understanding who they may best coach. So when you come to our club, you have to filter in. You come down the side through a little, what is in effect like a doorway, and then we can greet you quite easily. But the people who are greeting those people, and while they're waiting, the people who are stood chatting to them, trying to get information out of them without quizzing them. So people who are very natural at conversation. At the last one, the thing you showed at the slide at the beginning, there was a picture of Jack and I. And I think one of the things that we spoke about was a gentleman who had previously, big weekend for us, clashes with a big event in the town centre. And there is a medieval archery there. And they had previously on 2 occasions turned him away because they said he had an injury and he would never be able to shoot a bow. And just generally chatting with him whilst he was waiting, he just offered that bit of information. And I just carefully selected a coach, explained that he'd got an injury, and he did leave having shot 6 arrows, and then did a beginner's course at another local club and now belongs to that club. But he attended on the day expecting to be turned away, and it was just that little bit of conversation, talking to him. And you do find that perhaps some ladies don't want to be with a gentleman coach, some children, some coaches, to be fair, not necessarily children as a favourite thing, have a look at just your skill set of who you're going to, that chatting at the beginning. If you've got somebody that you're not barking questions of them, it's got to be a general friendly conversation, but you can get information that helps give them to the right coach, to the right person to shoot with. And I would rather have somebody wait a little bit longer and hand them to the right person than just push them to the next person that's available, because that's how you get them back.
That's really good, thank you, Helen. Yeah, really worthwhile thinking about that member journey again, isn't it? It all ties into the members' needs. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's great. And Lewis, have you had your hand raised? Over to you.
Oh, it's not, I just typed it actually. No, what I was going to ask very quickly was, are we actually on big weekend days allowed to charge for the sessions, or do they have to be free?
Yeah, so we try not to be too prescriptive on this. We encourage you to charge for have-a-goes if you're able to. That we know that that's an important way of raising funds throughout the year. But what sets the big weekend out as different really is that we try and make it free or as low cost as possible. So it might be that you have to cover your costs. We certainly don't want you to run into extra charges. And I know you were just mentioning there an extra day may well cost you. We would definitely not ban you from making a charge on your event if you need to make a charge, but the ethos of it is as little as possible or free if you can. In that sort of once a year, let's try and just raise, everyone's doing it at the same time, let's raise the profile of the sport. So
no, that's fine. That's fine. And also, I suppose, hope off the back of it that you actually convert those into positions on beginners course.
That's right, yeah. And you could invite them onto a taster session, which you might charge £20–30 for. No,
that's fine, thanks.
Okay.
That's where we make the money, is on the beginners course.
Okay, no, that's great, thank you.
Does anybody that's not spoken yet want to come and give us any of their top tips or ask a question about the big weekend? Or the big reopening, if you want to ask about that as well.
Hi Alan, it's Pete Gregory here. Just a couple of things. Listening to people talking, there's always something new to learn, listening to other people. So just a couple of things. The first guest speaker, who had some lovely flyers that he's shown on the screen, which probably cost a few quid to make. What I found was an extremely good idea was to get some 122 size centimetre face targets, fold them in half, so you've got a blank side that you can write on, and then you've still got half showing a target face, if that makes sense. So on the white side, you could write on whatever's happening on that day, you know, have a go free of charge with the address on and directions. We went all around near traffic lights and zebra crossings and things like that, and with some those plastic clips, I can't think what, the tie wraps, tied them to railings and things like that. So when cars were stopped stationary, they could read, and it was surprising how much footage brought that, you know, came to the event on that day, just looking at those. And also when you finish with the event, you've got a target face there that you can use, put it on your board. Another suggestion, somebody mentioned about having time to talk to the archer after they shot arrows. Well, something that you could do would be to have rolling coaches. So you could, this is depending on how many volunteers you get for the day, obviously. But if you had 4 coaches, one on each boss, and that coach then could take the archer through the delivery of the 6 arrows, because that person, it could be the very first time that they've used a bow and arrow before. So when they finish shooting, you get somebody to go and collect the arrows. You could then step back and talk to that person, get feedback, give them a bit more information that they may need. And while you're talking to that person, your rolling coach is taking your place, and they're taking the next person on and delivering their 6 shots. So you've got that constant flow of communication with visitors, because like you said, the idea of this is to get them to join the club, which helps Archery GB as well financially. So it's a win-win for everybody. So a couple of tips there. I've got loads I could yap on all night long, but I'm not going to do. Okay, so thanks everybody. I hope those 2 little tips are helpful to you.
Thanks, Pete. Yeah, certainly are. And you're welcome to share more as well. But yeah, that's great. That's really good. Thank you. Anybody else want to raise a tip that they have learnt along the way? You could share your top tip. Or has anyone else got a question they want to raise this evening, particularly if you haven't already?
One that we did was we couldn't find a safe place to do an archery session. So we bought, I think we bought about 21 foam tipped arrows and used them instead. So you can use those where it's not safe to use pointy arrows.
Yeah. Yeah, just
don't rule out anywhere really.
That's right. Yeah, the arrows kits are perfect for taking everywhere. You know, also those. The important thing is that it just helping people want to come back and do more, like has been already made this evening. So that's good. Yeah. And Graham, over to you.
Yeah, it was just a point that Mandy just raised about his fly tipping. Is posting posters on the side of the road legal. It's worth checking with your local council if you're going to do that, because some council treat it as fly posting, which is actually illegal in some councils. It's a bone of contention because the local circuses do it, so there's no reason why we can't. But it's better to check with the council just in case, because you're a permanent fixture. The circuses and the fairs aren't. Difficult for the councils to prosecute them.
Yeah, thank you, Graham. That's good. And certainly, maybe if you do find you're able to put up posters, might be worthwhile putting a date in the diary to go around, take them down again. And Dave O'Brien?
Yeah, just a comment there. We put some very large banners up near the sides of the roads, and we actually got taken by the council and put in storage. And we had the Riot Act read to us when we took them back about putting things up next to roads. So as long as it's on private land, it's fine. If you put it on verges, they don't like it.
Yeah.
Unless they're staked in hard and they can't get them out.
Okay, I'm just going to pop in the chat the link to the feedback survey, just hopefully to catch people before they leave this evening. We do have more time. I'm not saying that you have to leave yet, but just in case anybody was thinking of leaving, then there's the request there just to give us your feedback on this evening and to let us know if there are subjects that you would quite like to discuss in future. You can always let us know. On a Monday Natters session, we can cover those. Our next Monday Natters session will be on the 1st of March. We're going to be talking about facilities. So there's Monday Natters location coming up. So do feel free to book into that. Or if there's someone else in your club that would really appreciate that session, then do recommend it to them and they can sign up through the members portal as you have done for this one. That's Monday, the 1st of March. So just to give you those dates again, the big reopening will be the weekend, the 7th to the 9th of May. And the big week will be the week running up to the weekend of the 9th to the 11th of July, which will be the big weekend 2021, as far as we know. We're hoping that that's far enough in advance for us to be able to run. Yeah, Mandy, that's how we're feeling right now. Yeah.
Is any of that tied into the Olympics?
So the opening ceremony is planned for Friday the 23rd of July. So we know that no one will be wanting to promote events on that weekend. It will all be about the games beginning and then the Paralympics will follow afterwards. So yeah, we hope that that will tie in before the schools break up. So they might want to run an activities week and then maybe come along to your big weekends. But hopefully that will all tie in nicely. Do keep an eye out for more information coming out from us. We'll try and keep you updated. And there's some really good points in the chat. When I'm sharing screen, I haven't been able to read all the chat comments, but I will go back through and read all of those now. So they've been really good ideas shared. If you have any other comments you want to come on microphone, then please do, just before we wrap up this evening.
As well as the video going on the YouTube channel, do you also make this the presentation that you've put up available as well?
I'll send the presentation round to you all, save that and send it round if you wish. And yeah, it is part of the recording, but I know that's easier for you to see. Yeah, so I can send that round to all the participants. And that's another good reason for asking people to sign up, because we can send that out by email to everyone that had signed up previously. So for future webinars, and we've just released the next programme that covers the next 3 months of webinars, please do have a look at the programme. You can download the full programme from the web page. They are listed on the web pages, but do have a look at the full programme, because it gives you all the details about each webinar, and all the details around whether there's a cost or not. Most of them don't cost anything, and then you can sign up through your members portal. Thanks everybody so much for your contributions tonight. I think we'll probably wrap up there, if that's okay. Just really do keep an eye out, as I've said, for latest updates from us in case anything does change. And if you wouldn't mind clicking on that feedback link and just letting us know what you thought, we're always looking to improve Monday Natters.
Thanks, Helen.
Thanks everybody. Great to see you this evening.